And hello everybody, and thank you so much for watching this recording of the Content Marketing Master Plan webinar. And on behalf of the Cumbrian Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to welcome you again to this special session. I'm joined by my colleague Joanne Dolezal.
Hello, good afternoon. Lovely to meet you all.
And what we're going to do for you is two things. We're going to firstly give you the context behind this two-day training program. And then once we've done that, I'm going to share with you some of the details of what we're going to be doing for you. Let's begin, if I may, with some brief introductions. So I met Joanne, I would say, oh goodness, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago?
I think longer.
Longer than that.
Maybe 10.
And Joanne was already championing the cause for content marketing and savvy use of digital marketing, but you had a very, very unique approach, which was very complementary to mine, where I came from a strong PR and reputation management background, and you came from a strong strategic background. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is. I love taking a strategic approach to marketing. Sometimes that is a marketing strategy. Sometimes it's having the confidence to step back a little bit and for a business to look at various tactics and methods and just be a little bit dispassionate about the right thing for them and the right thing for their customers.
So John and I were working almost separately, looking after our clients, going from one-to-one coaching to group sessions to conference speaking, and we kept bumping into each other and sharing war stories and kind of things we were trying to do to really invite people to think about content marketing in a very, very practical way, a very different way. At a time where there was a lot of information out there, perhaps I would suggest to you, Joanne, too much information.
Yes, I think so. Something that I've noticed in recent years, I suppose I really discovered content marketing properly around about 2011, and that was by way of an online conference that the Social Media Examiner in the USA had put on. It was a virtual conference. I think it was called the Content Marketing Summit. And I was introduced to speakers like Mark Schaefer, Marcus Sheridan, Anne Handley, and some of those early pioneers of content marketing. And I think the thing that really appealed to me about it from the start was that it was much more about the quality of what you were doing rather than the size of your budget. But what I'm noticing in recent years, particularly in the last year or so, is that with the advent of marketing automation and some of the automation tools, what we're seeing is a massive churning out of very low level, very poor quality content. It's sometimes hard to break through the noise, but I think our customers are hungrier than ever for content that educates them and helps them to make the right decision for them. So I think it's an ideal opportunity really for businesses and marketers who have a strong message, they've got a strong proposition. I think your customers still really, really want to hear that. I think they need your help now more than ever.
And so Joe and I were talking a lot as we kept bumping into each other at different conferences and so on about our desire to really bring very practical messages and very practical advice to as wide an audience as possible. And we both agreed that we saw immense benefit in, I would call them, group sessions.
Yes.
Because I would argue that content marketing and the wider subject of business development is far too important to try and work it out on your own.
Yeah.
And is far too complex. I would suggest you almost far too personal for the business that is thinking about it to try and Google this stuff.
Yes.
Because I think you're going to have two tensions, as you would agree. There's just too much information online compiled by, I would call them well-intentioned consultants who are looking more at enterprise solutions. And you and I work with clients who have, of smaller sizes, but more limited resources in terms of time and budget. And I think that generally the advice out there invites people to feel perhaps a little guilty or inadequate.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I think because obviously content marketing is partly software driven, it's partly marketing's response really to all the software that's out there, particularly social media, our customers' ability to communicate with each other. But I think, yes, there's a lot of automated messaging out there, and obviously they want you to buy their software, they want you to use it. What they don't tell you is that these are very hungry machines. they still require a great volume of content to be created. So even if you're using an automation tool, you still need to have done the thought behind it and the planning, to need the customer insight to understand what your customers are really looking for. But yeah, there's definitely, I think in the last year in particular, I've noticed a trend that's really designed to make you feel inadequate as a marketer or as a business owner, that somehow you're missing out, somehow that you're failing in some way if you're not using these big heavy duty tools. But I think people often fall foul of marketing automation.
I would agree. So thank you very much for listening to this kind of preamble. What happened then, we met with the Cumbria Chamber of Commerce. We suggested that there was obstacles getting in the way of organizations in the region embracing content marketing in a very practical way. We met with the team at the Cumbria Chamber. We spoke about the need for people to plan better, to produce better content faster, to publish it better, and to promote it better. So there was almost like some key elements we wanted to go through. And the reaction from the chamber was, well, what's your answer to those challenges? And we came up with this 2-day training program that helps you discover your true potential and design the master plan, which is the brand we've come up with. So that's kind of the background behind it. And when we want to explore and explain to you why we designed this program, we're then thinking of you, our listeners, our viewers, we're thinking of the Cumbrian businesses, and we can reflect on the last few years. John and I do a lot of that and look ahead. And I would argue that the challenge is to appeal to your ideal customers and online audiences is getting greater every year because of the white noise of poor content marketing. Would that be fair to say, Joanne?
I'd agree, yes.
And also because the behavior of your ideal customers is kind of changing sometimes because technology is changing or because they themselves are becoming better as content gatherers and things essentially are moving forward. So what we thought we would do as part of this webinar is give you some insight in terms of some practical stuff you can already do to give us a lead in to then explain to you the content of the course. So I just want to remind people that the notion of content is not new. According to research, I don't know Wikipedia, where else, I'm told that Bill Gates came up with this statement, content is king, at a conference in 1996. We're celebrating nearly 20 years of content.
Much recycled by everybody else in content marketing.
And I wonder sometime whether Bill, can we call Bill Gates Bill?
I think we can.
Okay. I wonder if Bill actually knew to the degree in which content was going to become so important. Because to those of you who are watching us and listening to us, I know that content is a fuel for your website conversion. It is what you need for your SEO, your social media, and more. But I would argue that we're only really seeing the practice of content creation last 5 years. I'm going to hazard a guess.
I think those are the forward-thinking businesses. I encounter people every day for whom content marketing is a new concept. It's something that's just perhaps appeared on the periphery of their vision, and they're just getting to grips with it now.
Sure.
But yes, it's a very recent phenomenon, particularly in the Northeast and the Northwest.
On that, therefore, we're really excited about the initiative that we're doing with the Cumbria Chamber, because you will likely be an early adopter of content marketing in your sector and your region. And what we're trying to look into is, can we give you a competitive edge that you can sustain for many years moving forward? But the principle really as to the why is because things are moving on and that we are facing challenges as content marketer. And if you allow me, John, I'm just going to go quickly through some of our reflection. But do feel free to obviously interrupt and ask some questions on behalf of our listeners and viewers. So summarized what we're facing this year, all of us, into 3 key challenges. The first one is a need to, of course, create relevant and appealing content. And it's almost, and what do you mean by that? There's a lot of meaning behind those words. And I think for me is that, each challenge has a practical solution. And the practical solution for content relevancy is to really understand what your audience is looking for as information gatherers. and to spend perhaps more time than one would want to, and really avoid assumptions. So very briefly, for the time limits that we have on this webinar, I want to remind you all that your audience are very savvy internet users, I would argue.
Yes, possibly quite wary as well.
Yes, because you know we have all the headlines around fake news and more.
Yes.
And we've in luck, and the reason why I used a 5-year is because 2011 was an important year for all of us in marketing, which is when Google, Facebook, and Twitter shared a bit more than they used to about their understanding of an audience behavior. And very crudely, I would summarize their findings, which is that internet users, information gatherers, can be roughly organized into 2 main groups. The first group would be those looking for information that will help them make an imminent buying decision. That is to say, Joanne, they need what you provide soon, they just don't know who to choose yet. So they are in the shortlist and select mode. An important group for all of us. But there's, of course, another group, a very active group of individuals looking for information to solve a problem or answer a query. And for those of us who are kind of already looking at the customer journey, you can then delve into the details of, is it questions before the purchasing decision, or is it after?
Yes, the post-purchase honeymoon.
Indeed, yes. So
affirmation.
But that kind of already tells us that, you know, in terms of being relevant, we need to satisfy the need of 2 different groups: those who are making a buying decision, those who are, may I use a term, in a learning mode or kind of fact-finding mode. Since 2011, we've organized our website content and structure differently. So group number 1, Joanne, those who are looking to make an imminent buying decision, we organize our thinking and planning and more around promotional content. And we look at 4 subgroups. You will need information to showcase your product and services in a positive light. You will need to prove that, you know, you've done this before through track record.
And through things like testimonials and case studies.
Yeah, testimonial case studies, for some sectors, reviews, score, ratings, they'll go into that. You will need to obviously talk about the people behind the business. I'm sure our listeners will concur with us that people buy from people they trust.
Indeed. And
trust marketing is important. Who will look after me? And then a regular review, and this year it's going to be very important, of all the calls to action and the contact us page, which is becoming really the last bastion, if you like, of content marketing. So that's taking care of the need of group number 1, and already we can start to reflect on how well are we doing across those 4 subgroups. For group number 2, as I move on, those looking for answers to queries and problems, we're going to be creating social content. I use the term on purpose because it's usually linked to social media marketing. Again, we have 4 subgroups: news of interest to your audience, updates, useful tips, answering questions and the likes, and free downloads. Quickly here, Joanne, difference for content marketers between news and updates. News is about the industry in which your customers operate, to demonstrate you're an active participant. An update is what's happening internally with your business and the likes, just to clarify that point. So already we can start to shape our thinking and planning, align it with the behavior of our customers. And during the course, of course, we delve into the how it's done and so on.
But I think what's really important to add is that content marketing isn't just the content that you create for third-party platforms. It isn't just your email marketing or your social media, or perhaps a guest blog that you put onto another platform or a video. The home of content marketing is your own website. That needs to be the hub for all of your activity and where you will be driving all web traffic.
No, absolutely. And you remind me of, you know, the statements done by some of our peers in America and the rest, you know, where they would say that the website is the only land you would own. Indeed. The rest is rented land. Indeed. And you never know what the landlord's going to do next.
That's right. Yeah.
So there's a quick overview of facing the first challenge, which is about being relevant or content relevancy. If I move on quickly to the second challenge, and that is the one of frequency, which is something that we have to deal with a lot with our customers in terms of help and so on. We need to understand that this habit and behavior of gathering information has increased over time. The amount of hours people spend per day online has increased over time, judging by the latest stats from Ofcom and the likes, but also how many items of content that they will consult it has doubled since the last 5 years.
In fact, a recent report I read suggested that people were looking at up to 14 different sources of information, most of which will be online, before they make that very first contact with your business.
And what year was that research, you remember?
That was 2017. It's very recent.
Okay, it's because I know 2015 the number was 11, so from 11 going to 14.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue to increase. And I think it's both because it can be done easily.
Yes.
With mobile phones and the likes, people can access more content in a more easily fashion, but also because, you know, they're going to jump from one to the next, seeking the one that is going to perhaps come across as more credible, or
yes, or
that will confirm.
Answer their question most closely.
Absolutely. So how do we deal with this challenge, Joanne? Well, I don't think this is new information for our listeners and viewers, but we do need to create a dedicated editorial schedule or content plan, if you prefer the term. Those tend to be simple in terms of the format, but complex in terms of the completion. So you'll see on screen here that we have essentially reproduced the 4 key elements of promotional content and the 4 key elements of social content, and we would recommend that you apply yourself in terms of a 3-month forward view, so that you are clear by completing the different kind of boxes. If you say that you want to improve product services content in April, I would ask you which page in particular do you want to focus on. If you say you want to do more case studies, I'm going to ask you clearly which one, which project. And the level of clarity is very, very important. You want to share some news on what topic. You want to offer some useful tips, which question will you answer? And this table needs to be completed, therefore, very, very precisely. We suggest 3 months because we believe that that's more than enough to give you the line of sight. The likelihood is, if you try and do more than 3 months, it will become perhaps slightly overwhelming. But also what we learned from our clients is that if you were to get on with the April 2017 content plan, you will learn so much in the process. You may change your mind by May and June. I can guarantee you will no longer be in agreement with your plans for July, August, September. So 3 months is more than enough. Get on with the 3-month plan, complete your April work, and then all you have to do is add a column called July, and you roll the plan. And something that, again, we delve into more details during the 2-day course. But that's a very, very important one. For some of you who are listening and watching us who are working as part of a team, that also gives you a common language and a common goal. That also gives you the blueprint for sign-off from senior managers and the likes.
And the opportunity to integrate with the wider plans, the wider digital and marketing plans as well.
And invite colleagues, and there's lots of great stuff coming out. But if I may encourage you to use the term editorial schedule, that also sets the tone, as opposed to maybe, forgive me, a marketing meeting or that kind of things. I think really says it what it is. Okay, moving on then nicely into your final challenge for today, as part of the webinar, is that of content diversity. And it's a tricky one, it's a tricky term to use, but I was kind of stuck with that one. What we mean by that is that you've got to be careful in the context of people gathering information in more quantity, more often, that your website doesn't come across as monotone. There's to say there's only one style or one format in which you convey information. So what we do with that is we simply adopt the 3 content creation methods used by bloggers over time, and we build what I've called grandly a content creation team. And this is not new, again, but I think what we're doing today is joining the dots for you, which is that essentially we're going to adopt all 3 content creation methods. We're not going to choose between one of the 3 to avoid indeed content fatigue from the style. People start to become too familiar and they're no longer willing to give you their time. So method number 1 is called content conception, and Joanne, that is when you are the author of the content. These are your words, these are images and videos. It would be unwise, bear in mind what we've discussed so far and the challenge ahead, to only use this method. What we recommend is you to use the other 2 methods of content creation. The second one, I believe it's well known, is called content curation, whereby you are a researcher. So in content conception, you're the author. In content curation, you're a researcher. You research information of interest to your audience, and you share your recommendations.
And you act as a filter as well. I think you can be the quality control on that. And it's an interesting one, content curation, because People are often concerned that the things that they're sharing will be well known to the audience, and by and large they're not. You'll find that people have a very small number of online influencers. Ours will all differ, and their sources of information will differ widely as well. You increase your own credibility by sharing content that is relevant to the customer and on the topics that you're most interested in or that are most relevant to your business. But they will also be very grateful to you for having found that, perhaps filtered it in some way and shared it with them. And it's also a great way of keeping sane, because you may find that the volume of content that you need to be producing, it really doesn't enable you or allow you to be the sole creator of all of that content.
Thank you for that. And I think what I like about it is it's almost, if I may go as far as saying that it becomes content marketing as a service. Service of cutting through the noise,
Yes.
respecting your audience in terms of how busy they are during their week, and you're offering that kind of summary statement. The third method, and last method, is that of content contribution, whereby authors will actually offer you information to be published on your website in exchange of additional PR publicity.
Yes.
And if in content conception you're the author, if in content curation you're the researcher, in content contribution you are the editor, because you will have to slightly adjust and adapt, the content received, to you to make sure it fits the website format.
But it's a great way of bringing in the expert voice, and it might fill some of the gaps within your own, either your own topics or your own themes or levels of expertise. But I think the curation and contribution are a superb way of maybe filling the gaps within your preferred content style, something that Pascal will go into in a lot more detail on the program. But we all have a preferred content style. So sometimes it's a really great way to complement your key strengths with other people's strengths.
Indeed, thank you. And really to have diversity in that way, the format and the voice,
voices,
and
yes.
keeping the attention alive for the audience. Very much like a magazine or newspaper would have different editors, different writers, journalists, and so on. I did a research in 2009 after essentially a burnout. I personally burnt out in terms of content creation. I wasn't enjoying it at all. So I went out on a quest for knowledge and interviewed bloggers and the likes. And they all used this method, used different terms for them. And what it was, I kind of even expressed a doubt of saying, well, but if you do content curation and contribution, is that not going to work against your reputation? As in, you're not authoring everything, therefore the audience is going to lose confidence in your editors. And say, well, we have found that to be quite the opposite. When you use content curation, you demonstrate your passion, how well researched you are, and that's impressive. With content contribution, you demonstrate how well connected you are. And I've seen examples with my clients where their reputation was actually transformed and accelerated in their chosen marketplace by using all three methods. So actually, in a way, you do less, but you achieve more, which is very interesting.
So it enhances your online reputation.
It does.
It seems to me as well that it's an excellent way of positioning your business, positioning your organization, not only the expertise, but also the willingness to inform, the willingness to educate your marketplace, and hopefully to become a trusted and unbiased source of information that helps them make those eventual purchasing decisions.
I want to pick up on what you said earlier, Joanne, about this idea of changing the format and complementing your preferred practices. And that's what we do, particularly with content curation. So I'm going to show a visual, which hopefully explains what I mean by that. But the idea of your virtual content curation team is that over time you build a network of reliable sources and resources, but you mix the format and the style. So if, for example, personally, you favor copywriting as a style and you favor maybe more technical content, then I would argue that for content curation, you've got to look for the opposite, which could be visual information, which could be less technical information, because ultimately that is not what you wish to kind of improve upon as a content creator. But you appreciate that, to add visual elements to your website content curation would please the audience.
So rather in the way that you would build your team within a business, you'd look for complementary skills, but a wide range of skills as well, in order to achieve your ultimate goals. So that's what you're suggesting that you would do with your content too, Pascal.
Correct, yes. And therefore, the error sometimes has been, through lack of information, that people build a curation team that is matching their existing content conception activities.
I can
So
see
you have
how
the
that
same,
would be a risk.
you have the same content, the same format. You have more of it, which makes you feel like you're achieving something, but you're not
just one style.
facing diversity. Yeah.
And one format. It's interesting, actually, on formats, how popular video is. And in fact, I think YouTube is considered to be the second most popular search engine. So clearly, many people prefer either video content. And if you look at the popularity of the newer social media platforms, Snapchat, Instagram, Pinterest, people clearly like visual content. They don't necessarily want to read. Hence the popularity of podcasts. People would rather listen often than read. So curation that brings in those other formats is really valuable.
It is, and therefore you can do it the other way, which is if somebody is very keen on video content from an authoring point of view, then I would argue that their curation should be their long-form copy, because they're less likely to find that appealing and kind of work that way. So that's just clarifying the point I wanted to make about curation. And when it comes to contribution, well, really, then you're dealing with real people. And this is where your communication skills are going to come into play. And if some of our listeners, viewers are familiar with the old days of PR when you had to kind of charm the business editors and the likes, that's what we're talking about here. I've got clients who literally, at the end of each year, invite all their contributors to a Christmas dinner. They have mock awards, that type of thing. So really, that kind of relationship marketing is vastly important, because those individuals are doing a huge job for you. They are creating content to be featured on your website. And for all of you listening that are active in content creation, you know it's not a small task. So look after them well.
It's a labor of love.
Absolutely. If I may close, therefore, 3 challenges with an example, happy to bring it alive. Recent work that I completed with a very successful business specializing in high-end wedding dress making. And they were approaching content marketing in a very, I call it, laborious way, trying to author everything, trying to get everything perfect, and so on and so forth. And their reputation just wasn't progressing quick enough. But once they understood some of the key principles that we spoke about today, they did things very differently. So you'll see some visuals there on this slide. So if I begin with this article about the top wedding dress trends from spring 2017, that's the kind of thing I would expect the business to be authoring. So this is content conception. If you want to be respected and be credible as a wedding dress maker, you should be the go-to authority when it comes to dresses and the trends and that type of things.
Yes, certainly.
But you do respect the fact that your audience will find it quite difficult to be subjected to articles after articles about wedding dresses. Eventually their goodwill will start to fade. So you need to mix it up, you need to be relevant, you need to look at diversity. So curation could be, for example, researching the 7 best wedding planning apps bride and groom should download now. This would take quarter hour to half an hour of the business owner to research and summarize her findings into an article. Again, those 2 things are using words, copywriting being the favorite format for this lady. We need to be very careful and change and add. So
and look for some variety.
Look for variety. So when we move into contribution, interview with a wedding planner, that is a video. You can use Skype, you can use all sorts of things, but essentially a wedding planner is being interviewed by the business owner of the wedding dress shop and sharing, obviously, advice, because whilst the wedding dress is important to the store, you respect the fact that it's only one minuscule aspect.
Yes, for the customer. Yes, it's just a small part. And in a way, it's moving out from the thing that you do that serves your customer, or the product that you're creating for your customer, thinking about the things that complement it and what other challenges is that person facing. Perhaps what other ambitions are they trying to achieve? Because within your curation, you can go a little bit broader and widen the mix.
Indeed, indeed, and that's pretty much what we do with the course. We challenge you, and you can also look at something to do with after getting married. So in the case here of an article video that could be created by a jewelry company, how to care for your rings, and that, or as much as a lot of it has got little to do with wedding dresses, will accelerate someone's reputation no end. And this is what we mean when you want to use and apply yourself in content marketing. How do you raise your profile and credibility wisely through content?
And also, how do you become the go-to resource or the go-to website for everything to do with getting married?
Absolutely. So I hope that was helpful, not just for those of you who are getting married, perhaps this year, but also for those of you who are considering content marketing. An example, I think, is easy to understand without getting into perhaps more complex industries.
Yes.
Now, that's, I think, what we had in mind for the tutorials, talk, advice section. Perhaps if you allow us, we want to now describe to you the 2-day training plan, program, forgive me, that we had in mind. So I could ask Joanne to just take that on.
So we're going to open up the program with a webinar to welcome people and to go through the program in more detail, but also to give you a little bit of homework to do before we get started. There'll be some research that you'll need to do internally within your company, within your organization. It won't be difficult, but it'll be research that gets you ready to come on the day. So we open up the program, the Master Plan program, on the 25th of April, and it's a full day workshop at the Chamber of Commerce in Cumbria, in Carlisle. And we've titled the day, Discover Your True Potential. We'll go through the elements of that day in more detail in a little while. But really, it's an opportunity for us to kind of sort of level set, to make sure that everybody is comfortable with all of the key concepts of content marketing, and that you have a really solid foundation within your business and within your marketing. We then give you quite a bit of homework to do. There's going to be quite a bit of prep for day 2. But that will be the opportunity to really flex those new muscles. So you'll be designing your master plan. And one of the outcomes of that day will be not just to understand where all of those content creation ideas will come from, perhaps contributors within the business or outside of the business, but it will also give you the tools to create your own 3-month detailed plan. Now, the reason that we talk about planning again and again is because we both know from many years' experience, as you will know too, that the more detailed a plan is, the more likely you are to fulfill it. But also, it gives you the opportunity to perhaps plan for additional resources that you might need. Sometimes with content marketing, you might need help with copywriting. You might need help with photography or videography. There may be pieces of software that you need to use. There may be other resources that you need to call upon. If you have a plan, you can make sure that those things are in place for you when you need them. Then on the 12th of June, we'll have a review session, and it's an opportunity for us to discuss the plans that you've created, to give our feedback, and where we can to perhaps give a little insight, maybe suggest the odd tweak here and there. And it's a chance also for us to have a debrief, because both Pascal and I are really passionate teachers and trainers, and we always want to know that the training that we're delivering is really helping people to achieve their goals. So that will be a really valuable session for all of us. So that's the overall master plan.
Thank you very much. Yes, and really taking your point, Joanne, it is our intention to make this a truly inclusive and supportive experience for everybody. What we're going to do is spend just a bit longer now on the content, and particularly day 1, where it's about discovering your true potential and become clearer in terms of what we mean by this title. And if I could ask you, Joanne, to maybe describe the morning sessions.
Yes, I'd be happy to. So we will start the day by, first of all, getting to know each other a bit better. This is really valuable for all of us because what we want to create is a really supportive environment. Some of you may be running your own business, you may have a micro business, you might be quite new to business, others might have been in marketing roles for many years. And it's just to help us kind of a little bit of storming before we start performing in terms of team building. We'll also have a short session that's just a sort of introduction to content marketing, maybe broadening the subject out for you a little bit. Then we start in the most obvious place of all, with your customer or your customers. You may have several target groups that you're trying to reach. And where content marketing really, really succeeds is when we use the insight that we have into that customer or those customers, and we start to create buyer personas or customer avatars that are more than just perhaps an standard industry classification code or a business size. You're actually thinking about the person that you're selling to, whether that's a business-to-business customer or business-to-consumer. So we think about who that person is, what their role is, what their goals are, challenges that they're trying to overcome, perhaps the common objections that they might raise to purchasing your services or products. But it's a really valuable exercise because once you've nailed those customer personas, your content marketing becomes an awful lot easier because you know who you're creating content for and you know the key triggers that will help them move along that customer journey. Then we look in, because each business is different, each organization is different and unique. But sometimes it's difficult when you're a little bit too close to the topic. Sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees. And I find this all the time with clients, as I know you do as well, Pascal, that often people don't realize how special they are. They don't realize how unique their business is. Because it isn't just what you sell, it's who you are and your unique skills and experience and background, but also the values that your business holds. Now, values are fine as a set of statements, but unless you can demonstrate the benefit that they deliver to your customers, particularly to those target customer personas, then you're going to miss out on the type of content that you could be creating that would really, really get their attention, that really reaches out to them, not just to their minds, but also to their hearts. And that's the kind of content that builds trust.
Okay, so that will take care of the morning of day one. Thank you very much, Joanne. And then I would then take the lead in the afternoon with your support to kind of ask the questions. So if we have a set of business values and benefits that have been identified or clarified, if we have a clear audience in mind, what are the decisions we have to take in terms of content creation to engage that audience and make them believe in those values and benefits and so on. And this is a session really to ask you questions and make you reflect on your approach to content conception, content curation, and content contribution. Importantly for me, it's also looking at and using the group environment to help each other around obstacles, time, workload, and all those things, and sharing stories and more in terms of how people have tackled those obstacles. You and I can share with these stories from my clients and
Indeed,
so on.
yes.
But we need to be very, very clear about our own unique version of content creation and how it's going to match the rest of what we do. We're not going to get into the details of the how, because of course that's day two, but unless you're clear about what you wish to do in the future to achieve that reputation and marketplace, things will be a little more difficult. So that's looking at the practice, and then we're going to move on after that to something very important, which is you as an individual and you as a content author and creator. And we're going to do an exercise here called the 7 online voices, which is something that I have built over time thanks to my client. And what we're going to do here is make you essentially, or highlight for you, your unique talent, your unique style of content creation, and suggest to you that is what you have to nurture and develop and be the best in that content format moving forward, safe in the knowledge that for the other voices, so let's say, for argument, Joanne will do the exercise with you, and we discover you have 2 voices, which are your favorite voices, you know that the other 5 will still be featured on the website using curation and contribution.
Absolutely.
Now, unless you're kind of honest and, should I say, proud of your unique voice, you can't then build it and improve it to be the best in that industry. So that's the idea behind it.
And what I've witnessed in past workshops is that it's a really empowering moment for people to understand that there's real value in the strength that they have, but also immense relief in understanding that they're not going to have to do all those different formats.
Correct.
That they may be really uncomfortable with.
Absolutely. And then, as you would expect, we would wrap up with some recap and action planning, a combination of homework and research activities to make you ready for day 2. So there you have it, an overview of day 1, discovering your true potential, bringing some both very practical and strategic input into your work. As we meet again roughly a month later,
yes, about a month later,
we're in a position to design your content marketing master plan. We're going to be using the same method whereby Joanne is going to take the lead in day 2 in the morning. She'll take us through the sessions.
Yes, with pleasure. So it'll be a chance for us to review your progress. You will have gone back to your business, your organization, I'm hoping with a fresh approach to content creation. And you'll come back to day 2 with lots of ideas, lots of plans in the pipeline. I think also an understanding of how content marketing will help the wider marketing plans and business plans to be achieved over that year. But it's an opportunity to start forming a plan, to think about not just the different types of content, the different formats that your content can be produced in, but also the different stages of the customer journey, the different types of content that the customer needs when they're at those very early awareness building stages, through to the sort of, maybe they've nailed it down to a short list, to when they need some deeper content that really helps them to decide that you are the right service provider or manufacturer for them, right down to the post-purchase affirmation that they really have chosen the right provider. So we'll be looking at the different stages of content as well. So then what we need to look at is idea generation. One of the biggest challenges that content marketers face, and this is an entirely universal challenge and it is faced by absolutely everybody who does content marketing, is where to get ideas from, but also to make sure that you have held those ideas up to the light, because it's very easy to become a little bit insular in our content creation. As businesses, as organizations, we tend to look inward and we tend to focus too much on the things we want to say, that we'd like the customer to know. We don't focus enough on what the customer is looking for. But fortunately, you're going to have lots and lots of signals that are coming through to you that will give you that indication. So we'll be looking at where to find ideas internally, internal to the organization, perhaps from customer-facing colleagues, but also how to use some of the keyword research tools online, and also some of the search tools online to find out the language that your customers are using and the things that they're regularly searching for. It also gives you a great opportunity to find out whether or not they're finding them, because those are opportunities for you. Those can be gaps that you fill beautifully with the content that you create.
We'll move on from that then in the creation mode. So you have the ideas, you have clarification, they've been challenged in different ways. Our role then is to make you a better content author. And we're going to cut to the chase and give you the technique and the templates used by the pros to get to the higher results. We'll be looking at copy blogging, we'll be looking at photo blogging and video blogging, because you need to know, obviously, the different approaches. But what is very, very important, it will be showing you ways to make sure that you have content which will not age too quickly, so that you have, obviously, the benefit of your hard work. And we're still looking at showing you ways which will be superior to the competition. That's our promise to you. So quite an important element when you build your own personal toolkit. We'll give you a lot of options. It is your decision which one will be right for your business based on your buyer personas and more. So that's an important element. And then, as you probably would have guessed, we then need to help you build the other side of your toolkit, which is your content curation and contribution toolkit. And again, we'll be looking at techniques and templates used by the pros to facilitate that, so that, again, even if the competition was to try and emulate your effort, the result would be the poorer, because they just don't have the kind of techniques and approaches that you will have. And again, we'll be looking at curating copy, photo and video content, and how it then gets utilized into your content marketing efforts. What is really important here is that this is truly informed by the exercise and efforts in day one. So I want to really make sure that people understand that each day kind of complement each other. Once you've done that, it makes complete sense then to be giving some consideration. I think this element would be done through sharing of experiences and practices to date, but how do we then publish and amplify the reach of this amazing content of yours? And again, learning the lessons that the group has had to share on that day.
So some of that will be down to planning. Some of it will be down to selection of the right technology. And some of it will also be looking at the key influencers in your marketplace. Because one of the best ways to amplify your content is for influencers to find it, to value it, to share it. So we'll be looking at not just a sort of publishing schedule, publishing plans, publishing techniques, but also influencer outreach. And I can't stress the importance of influencer marketing enough for your business. It's really key. And even the tiniest micro business can really benefit from I suppose, the kind of digital patronage that somebody bigger than you with a bigger following online finds your content and they move it on for you. They can share it often with hundreds of thousands of followers.
And I think for me, when I look and reflect on day two and the way we're describing it, our work is to help you make wise decisions on how to use your precious time, and from there to understand the skills that you have to improve upon. So again, we're going to give you lots of options, but part of it is to select the few that are right for your business.
Indeed. And I think also, even in terms of social media, it's easy to be a busy fool on social media. Very easy. But we'll help you to think about maybe the 2 or 3 social media platforms that are going to be the most value to your business in helping you to reach your target customers. And I think to have the confidence to say no to the others, to have a presence perhaps, but not to invest too much time and effort into them. Something I'm finding increasingly with social media is that the platforms have gotten wise to scheduling tools. And you're really rewarded now for showing up. You're rewarded for being present, for actively engaging with your social media followers and the conversations online. You can't be everywhere all the time, which is why being selective, but perhaps investing real love and energy into those platforms will get you far greater returns than perhaps just scheduling lots of stuff into lots of different platforms and scattering your energies and your effort.
Indeed.
And then we will recap and enable you, or empower you basically, to start your own individual action planning. So by the end of day 2, you should have everything you need in terms of understanding the challenges that your customer is overcoming, to understand the challenges of how to manage the volume, how to generate the volume of content that you need to, but also where you will look for ideas internally and online, where you will look for curated quality content and those all-important content contributors, into being able to create a detailed plan for your business, for your organization, for a 3-month period. And the thing is, once you have been through that process once, it's very, very easy to just keep adding a layer and adding a layer as the months go by. So
for us, really, if we go back to how we began this webinar, and we thank you for listening to this conversation, really, more of a conversational presentation, I would argue, is that the journey began with some concerns about giving people access to quality information and advice so that they could transform their skills and essentially end up with a situation where they can build those skills for many years to come. And not suggesting that you can then read up about it and improve what you do, but I would argue that, you know, the 2-day training program will give you what you need to make wise decisions and truly, I think, give you the result that you desire, as opposed to trying to Google this stuff or trying to, you know, go around in circles and not looking for the answers that you need. Because ultimately, what the studio program content is also the feedback from our own customers about what has made a huge difference to them.
I think that's a really important point, Pascal, because not only will you have your peers in the room who have their current experience, but also a lot of past experience, but you'll also be able to draw upon our extensive experience. Both Pascal and I have been doing what we do for many, many years. We have worked with dozens and dozens of clients. We have trained hundreds of businesses through the programs that we run. I don't wish to sound blasé. It isn't that we've seen it all. It's that we understand the challenges that each individual business faces. We understand the challenges that you need to overcome. And we've designed this program to help you overcome them. Thank you very much for listening today. Thank you, Pascal, for your time as well.
No problem at all.
And if you do have any questions, we're really sorry that this wasn't a live webinar today, but if you do have any questions, please either contact Catherine Dunstan at the Chamber of Commerce or drop us a line via email. We'll share our contact details with Catherine. If you have any questions at all about the program, any objections or any misgivings, then please do get in touch. But we would love to see you there. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Goodbye.